and install some breathing.
ఎవరు బిడ్డలైతే ప్రతిరోజు దీంట్లో ఎక్కడ పనులు చేస్తారు
police departments, and you see that when they change the rules for hiring, you see increases in crime because they're not able to be as effective in doing it. Now, you don't see the same increase in crime, at least not statistically significant, for when you change the differences. So, for example, when they change these strength standards, police departments move from single officer patrol units to 2 officer patrol units. They move away from walking and foot patrols and bicycle patrols to car patrols. So they can substitute in, some technology there to kind of offset the fact.
But it may not be as effective, right? I mean, if you have a given number of officers in a department because you're limited by your budget, and you say we have 50 officers, so that means we can staff 20 cars. Well, that was when it was 1 officer per car. Now we have to have 2 officers per car. So now we have half as many cars or half as many units out there patrolling neighborhoods, and that means the coverage is thinner, and the criminals figure that out.
No, that's exactly right. And there are some things that we do get statistically significant results for, and they're quite large. What you find, for example, is that shootings by police officers increase when they reduce the strength standards. And it's actually a very large increase there. You see increased shootings by the female officers. And, that's understandable to some extent because if you actually get into a physical confrontation with a criminal, a male officer, or risk getting into that, a male officer stronger can rely on his strength to kind of overcome the problem. A female officer, if she waits until she's actually in a physical confrontation, actually hand-to-hand combat, may be in a much more difficult situation, and so they have less time in order to make a decision whether or not to go and fire their gun.
And the end result of this is going to be tough to unwind, isn't it? Because even if you end the DEI policies and you start hiring just based on merit and not based on sexuality or skin color, you're still going to have a lot of officers on the department who are representative of that DEI mindset, correct?
Yeah, well, you have police departments which have moved towards doing these things on their own without having a consent decree imposed on them. Presumably there's some reason why they picked the particular...
American people are no longer buying the idea that this entire crowd, not a single one of whom was armed, that this was an insurrection. As my friends over at Revolver News correctly say, it was a Fed-surrection. And we still have not seen the full involvement of the Capitol Hill Police, Nancy Pelosi, and the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and others in the events of that day. And by the way, while we're at it, who placed the pipe bomb outside the Democrat National Committee? Evidently, there's one also placed outside the Republican National Committee. Yet the American people have no answers. We know that Vice President Kamala Harris was dangerously close to that pipe bomb. Yet we have no answers as
the original tissue for the organ on a chip or even organoids that's coming from humans, human tissue. Now, in this day and age, anytime I hear that, it's hard not to imagine that politics can creep in because, for example, you said stem cells. And we know that, politics around abortion have oftentimes sort of entered the space when it comes to stem cell research. where are you talk about patient original samples? Like, where are the other human tissue samples coming
None of
from?
these are embryonic cells.
Okay.
And these are usually coming from cadavers where people have agreed to donate their tissues, and companies sell them, or surgical a biopsy. Basically they're looking to see if you have ulcerative colitis, but they take a sample, turns out to be normal, and the patient has volunteered that it can be used. The induced pluripotent stem cells are, again, from patients who have volunteered to donors. So none of this is embryonic.
Okay. So let's go into a lab now, because earlier this week, On Point producer Will Walkie visited Dr. Jenny Tam, director of the Wyss Institute's synthetic biology platform in Boston, Massachusetts.
At ZipRecruiter.com.
A layperson's way of describing them might be small, tiny balls of stem cells. And at the lab, Dr. Tam obviously uses freezers to keep the cells at just the right temperature.
Etiquette, we'll let you have it.
Well, in that place, and you can see all the
Gold. And the experts at Colonial Metals Group are the only folks I trust to help you. Wednesday, time 8:31, time for traffic and transit. Here's Kelly Dillon.
bumper to bumper on the Harlem River Drive tonight as you make your way southbound into the 130s. A new accident here blocking one lane northbound from the 150s to the outbound George ramp. It is still stop and go, much better on the west side. In Queens, the eastbound BQE is at a standstill approaching the Kosciuszko Bridge with a crash in the right lane, backing up traffic to Flushing Ave. In Brooklyn, both ways, the BQE stop and go into Atlantic Avenue. In the Bronx, quite slow on the northbound Deegan tonight as you approach 138th Street. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Across the George both ways, the upper levels about a 15-minute backup, lower levels a little bit better. Not looking too bad either way now at the Lincoln or Holland. Across the Brooklyn-bound Brooklyn Bridge, traffic still at a standstill.
But those will be really spotty. Most areas stay dry with a high of 89. Some spots will even hit 90. Partly cloudy and warm tomorrow night, a low of 70. Still can't rule out a thunderstorm on Friday, but again, most places stay dry with more clouds and sun. Will be warm and humid with a high of 86. Driving right into what's known as the shaft of the storm, where hail pelting is the most intense. Their mission is to see how it forms and how much worse it may get, with one study last year showing climate change means small hailstorms will likely become bigger and more common.
That report from Matt Piper, hail damage so costly the insurance industry is helping to pay for this mission. AccuWeather tracking our steady rise of the thermometer at the cost of energy goes up. A new city controller report said the rising heat is killing hundreds of New Yorkers every summer. Controller Brad Lander putting out a warning. Too many residents struggle to pay energy bills. A report out today says 30% of New Yorkers are what they call energy insecure, creating a problem due to climate-related heat rises. According to NASA, globally last year was the hottest year on record. That's life.
Multiple cases associated with bipolar disorder. So looking at one of these.
For drug development. These current limitations.
So as we create different brain regions, we would like to merge these different brain regions to more complex